Hey Facilitator, my name's Meg Bolger. I'm a professional facilitation geek and one of the co-founders of Facilitator Cards. What you are about to check out is our Facilitator Cards Brain Jam on Zoom breakout rooms. Every month here at Facilitator Cards, we bring together our community of facilitators to explore a new tool, technique, or technology that we can use to enhance our virtual facilitation practice. This month, we checked out Zoom breakout rooms, and you'll see in the recording, we have a discussion about what makes for terrible breakout room experiences. We start to unpack that. Then we hear from some folks who feel like they've really leveled up their ability to facilitate Zoom breakout rooms. We specifically dive into timing and the importance of warming groups up when before you send them into breakout rooms. And then finally, we end with a discussion about whether facilitating virtual breakout rooms is really so different from facilitating in-person breakout spaces with your groups. So hope you enjoy the recording, hope you learn a lot. If you're interested in learning more about what we've learned throughout this month or hearing about our other events, please check out information in the description below. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook to keep up with the events that we're doing, and I hope maybe we'll catch you at a future Brain Jam. Hello, everyone. Some familiar faces, some new faces. It's great to see everybody's face. Hey, I'm Meg Bolger. For those who don't know me, I am one of the half of the team of Facilitator Cards, and I am really excited to be with you all this morning. It is almost noon where I'm at now, so I should probably stop saying morning. I know that folks are probably not morning where all of you are. I'm actually interested if you want to throw in the chat, where are folks calling in from today? I would love to know where you are in the world if you want to share. Welcome to our March Brain Jam on Zoom breakout rooms, a feature that I'm sure many of us have been using over this past year and that I'm really excited to dig into. All right, cool. We have some folks staying up with us in the UK where it's 8 p.m. and got some West Coasters as well. So that's great. All right, so quick overview of what we're going to be doing today. We are going to be digging into breakout rooms, one of the features for me that I go to all the time as a facilitator, and talking about some best practices, what goes well, how we can make them better. And we're going to be experiencing some breakout rooms, unpacking them, and then digging into what really makes them tick. We're going to do all of that in the first 60 minutes, and then that second 60 minutes will be time for people to experiment, to go dig deeper, and to try things out if you are able to stick around for that. Okay, so some folks are unmuted and some folks are muted. I want to let you know that if you want to be unmuted, if you have a quiet background and a quiet surroundings, you're totally welcome to do that. If you would like to just be if you'd like to just have the ability to chime in at any moment, or laugh at when people make jokes or whatnot, that can sometimes make us feel more connected, which I really love. So, okay, I'm going to kick it over just to Sam to say hey and to introduce himself as well.
Hi y'all, I'm Sam Killerman, the other half of Facilitator Cards. How are y'all doing? I was just talking with Meg before our call today that yesterday was our 1-year anniversary of starting the Kickstarter. I know that March is also it's also a 1-year anniversary of other sadder things, but to look on the bright side, we started creating these cards about a year ago, or started funding these cards about a year ago. So thanks to all of you who are part of that. And I'm excited because even though that year started all of this virtual facilitation, this is it feels like in that year we've learned a lot. So hopefully we'll get to apply some of what we've learned in Zoom facilitation and virtual facilitation in this Brain Jam today. So hello everybody, and I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I was thinking this morning that one of the things that I love doing in in-person facilitations is just getting a chance to connect with who's in the room. And if we were in person, I would say, turn to the person next to you and say, hey, and introduce yourself. We're going to be hanging out for the next hour. So let's see who's in the room. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to jump into some breakout rooms right off the bat. So I have you paired off with one other person in the Brain Jam. You might be in a group of 3, as we're at an odd number at the moment. So if you are, you might be in our lucky group of 3. Absolutely. And for just a few minutes, I'd love you to just introduce yourselves and say, hey, ask what type of facilitation they do, where they are in the world. You all are very good at introducing yourself, I'm sure. So I'll let you take it from there. So I'm going to open the breakout rooms and just give you a few minutes to get acquainted with somebody else in the space. And I'll see you in a few.
If you go back in the room, that's funny. You go back on mute as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I see that.
My first learning. It's funny. I'm not that often on the receiving side of a breakout room.
Yeah, absolutely. So Marlise was just reflecting, for anybody who's just popping back in, that when you come back from the breakout room, it remutes you. So it kind of like makes you extra try to participate when you're coming back, and which is such a bummer because you've just spent time talking probably very freely with that person in the room. So
Wonder if you can change that in your settings, Meg, like in your Zoom settings, you as a host, mute all participants upon entry kind of thing.
Yeah, you might be able to.
I think that's it. Yeah, because I typically don't have that happen.
Okay, perfect. So I had thought entry was just when they came initially into the room, but it means every time you re-enter the room. Okay, great. That is good learning and a setting I will turn off. Okay, cool. So folks got a chance to connect with one person in this initial session. Turn to that person next to you. Now I want you to turn to the person on the other side of you. And how we're going to do that is I'm going to open up the rooms again, and you are going to get pulled back into your breakout room. Okay? And when you get pulled into your room, each room has a number. And that number is going to be 1 through 10. So when you see, when it pulls you back, just pay attention to the number that it pulls you back to. Because what I'm going to ask is when you get back in your breakout rooms, I want one person from each room to rotate one number. Okay? So when you go back into your breakout rooms, look for the breakout room button, and one of you needs to move up a number. Unless you are room 10, you need to send someone down to room 1 to be a new buddy. Okay, so you should have the ability to move yourselves. If you don't see that ability, it is because your Zoom isn't the most up-to-date version. And if your buddy has that ability, they can move, or you can call for help and I can move you. So don't worry, you will not get stuck alone. Any questions before we head back into the rooms about those directions?
Meg, I just want to clarify that functionality we'll see at the bottom. I think I saw it at the bottom right near where it says leave room. There'll be another like 3 dots that say change the breakout room that you're in. Is that what you want us to look for?
I think there should be in the bottom toolbar, there should be a thing that actually says breakout rooms. Okay. And you should see that as soon as I open it. But when I open it, y'all are going to zoom away. So that's why I haven't pressed it just yet.
Okay.
And again, I just want you to get to know that person. And if you want to go a little bit further, maybe talk about what inspired you to come to this Brain Jam today. Okay, we're going to do another quick intro, and we'll bring back in just a few minutes.
What have your big kind of experiments and learnings with the breakout rooms been? Like the biggest thing that you've
well, this was an interesting test. I mean, this idea of broadcasting, come on back when you're ready, that's something new rather than just closing, right? So that's something I was trying out was if you welcome people back, if you say, come on back when you're ready, how does it go? We're trying that out right now. All right, I'm going to give people a hard stop in their breakout rooms and bring everyone back together. All right, the second breakout room, longer chats. It's great. People are going right up to time, which I always love to see who squeaks in the last five seconds of conversation. All right, we are all coming back now. All right, so we've had a chance to connect. The opting into breakout rooms, that went, it happened, and people had varying levels of success, but everybody got, I hope, a new partner and got to experience what it was like to opt into those rooms. So we had a little bit of experiential learning to kick us off here. So what I want to, when I was thinking about my experience with breakout rooms for the last year, it has been a sometimes steep learning curve. And when I think about myself as a participant, I often think about how breakout rooms are awkward or clunky, or they're just not very great experiences. And I think as a facilitator, sometimes I want to look away from when I do things poorly. And rather than doing that, we're actually we're gonna zoom in and dig into what makes for a terrible breakout room experience. Okay, so that's going to be the focus. That's going to be our focused question for the next little bit. And the way that we're going to unpack that question is we are going to use Mural, and we're going to create some sticky notes. And who has never used Mural before? Can you give me a hand? Yeah, okay, cool. Quick Mural orientation then. This also can just serve as a reminder for everyone. So let me share my screen, and I'm going to show you the 2 things that is all you need to know about Mural. So when I share this link, you'll get a splash screen saying you can enter your name, or you can just click enter anonymously and you'll be assigned some cute animal. So when you arrive in the Mural, this is what you will see. And all we are going to do is we are going to make sticky notes, each with an idea about what makes for a terrible breakout room experience. And to make it sticky, all you need to do is double click. You double click, and then you can start typing. And you want to make another sticky, just double click anywhere on the Mural, and you can just start typing. If you want to move the stickies around later, you can do that. And that's all you need to do in order to create stickies. If you want to zoom in, because this is too far out, just make sure your settings are set to the right mouse, trackpad or mouse, and then it's really easy to zoom in and out. And if you want to move around the Mural to see what other people are writing, then go ahead and click this Mickey Mouse hand. And if you turn on move mode, that will help you move without moving any of the stickies. Okay, so double click to create a sticky, move mode so that you can move without moving the stickies. And that is all you need to know to get started. So let me share the link and the directions again to the chat. So when you get into the Mural, I'd love you to create 1, max 3 sticky notes that answer this question: what makes for a terrible breakout room experience? And try to be as specific as possible, and 1 idea per sticky. Thank you for the assist, Sam, on getting rid of those stickies. All right, and if anyone is having tech problems, you don't know how to navigate Mural, you can direct message Sam in Zoom, and Sam will help you troubleshoot any tech issues. But for now, I just see—
Yeah, I'm not able to connect to it. That's weird. I'll message Sam.
Okay, thanks, Maria. And if you have ideas that you want to make sure we put on there right now, you could also message Sam your ideas, and Sam can always make those stickies if we can't figure out the troubleshooting. All right. Now that we're all on the Mural, go ahead and start. I see people starting to make stickies already. Okay. And I'm gonna— Okay, so as we are making these stickies, if you notice anybody has a similar sticky, either the exact same one or just like you're like, these are close, these are thematically similar, you can start moving the stickies into themes. And people are also welcome to talk in the Zoom. If you're like, oh, I see a theme over here, you can go ahead and say that out loud, and that will help direct our attention as a group as well. Okay. All right, does anyone see any themes as they are making their stickies or as they are reading through other people's stickies?
Yeah, there's
Sorry, I
a
didn't
little
hear that.
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
there's a little mini theme over here about time.
Can you
Time
make a
in the
big,
breakout. Pardon me?
could you make a big sticky that says time, Joe? I'm not sure where you are on
Yep.
or maybe tell us, logistically, top right, top left,
Bottom left.
bottom left. All right.
So I just made a big sticky that says time.
Okay, bottom left, we've got time. Barb says in the upper left corner, there's a theme about vague instructions.
And it's getting bigger and bigger now. It's kind of way down the side of the left.
Because that's a big theme then. Awesome. Any others people see?
So there's some up here in the middle. Up in the middle has to do with the video. There's a couple of them. The videos being off.
I think a bigger theme than that is participation, because down on the kind of the middle right, there's also participants refuse to speak, another camera's not on, awkward silence. So I feel like that's kind of all goes with the video lack of participation, wherever that might be.
This is Beth. I just want to add a flip side to that. If you are an internal processor, and I don't know how many folks are on the line that are with us today, when you are pushed into that breakout room, sometimes you're refusing to speak because of how you process, how you take in information, think time. And so I caution with that it is, I think it could be more about how we prefer to work and be versus not wanting to be on camera or awkward silences. It's just another way of thinking about that I try and be aware of.
Yeah.
Of that piece.
I appreciate you sharing that, Beth. And I think the idea there is to not like put a value judgment or assume like why people aren't doing those things, but know that like being thoughtful about easing those barriers, or just like not assuming we know why people are doing that. Right. So we've got a couple of themes here, and what I would love to do is I'd love to ask, does anyone see a theme like vague instructions or timing or some? I see a couple other groups of themes as well, where you feel like, a year ago or when I started Zoom facilitating, I was really bad at that. And then I worked on it, and now I feel like I got it. Like now I feel like I'm pretty solid, and I've hacked it, I've cracked it. Does anyone feel like there is a theme that they feel that way around? And if so, could you either like say, yeah, that's me, or raise your hand in the Zoom? Okay, I see Jill and I see Simon. Cool. So I'm gonna pull us, or I'm gonna just be pulling our attention a little more to the Zoom for a moment. Although if you want to keep working, or if you're still like reading stuff, that's okay. But I'm gonna bring everybody back to the Zoom. And Jill, here is what I would love. I'd love to put you in the spotlight for a moment so that we could hear what you had cracked and ask you questions, so that you can be our like temporary expert in the room, and help us all understand what journey you've gone through and learn from your wisdom. So are you okay with that, Jill? I should have asked before I put you in the spot. Okay, your game. All right, cool. So Jill, what is the thing that you feel like you've cracked?
I was really terrible at the timing of giving people the right amount of time to accomplish or connect in ways that I was asking them to do. And so I think that I was prematurely yanking people back. And I'm pretty sure I figured it out because I was lonely by myself waiting for them to finish.
Okay, awesome. So what questions do folks have for Jill about, if you're like, I'm still terrible about this, Jill, what questions do folks have for Jill about this theme of timing?
How did you land on that? How did you land on what you think now is the right amount of time?
Well, similar to facilitating in person, I think like doing the activities more. So trying to find some friends and family that would participate. So if my miss wasn't as big of a miss. Also, the people listening to the people telling me, "Oh my gosh, we weren't finished," and then trying to figure out how to get them back to those rooms, and really just listening to what they had to say helped me to really see that my instinct about being off was truly off.
Other questions folks have for Jill?
Yeah, would you say you normally underestimated or overestimated the time? I.e., would you? Because I myself, I tend to give people not enough time, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I've yet to meet anybody who gives people too much time.
Yeah, because
I have.
Hi, my name's Rohan. I give people too much time. And actually, I'm curious, Jill, to hear your thoughts, opinions on this, because what I actually find is that in my groups, it's not that there's just disparities between the groups. 3 of the groups will want an extra 5 minutes. 2 of the groups were done 5 minutes ago. And so, have you had that experience, and what are some ways that you've encountered, you've managed it?
I definitely have had that experience. Something that I've been doing lately is giving them little bits of time and building up the amount of time in rooms, like giving them manageable tasks. So in the beginning, when we're warming up, I send them off and I tell them they have 5 minutes, but I give them something very easy to do in 5 minutes. So maybe they're done in 3 and they have to shoot the bull after they're done. So I know that by the time they come back, they're really finished. And then now I might give them 7 minutes for the next task. And I know it can be done in 5. And then finally, I might give them something that absolutely has to be done in 15 minutes, like the very tops. And I make it a competition so that they don't stall. So when they come back, they have to have completed their task, or they're the group that's like incomplete, which doesn't feel that good. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks.
Yes.
Just chime in on that. Something that we've been experimenting with and was kind of taking it from Google Sprints is allowing the groups to vote on how much time they want as well. So on the chat we go, okay, how much time do you think you want for this? And then we go, sometimes we want 7 minutes, sometimes we want an hour. That's when we have to bring down the hammer and be like, okay, we'll decide then. But most of the time there's a bit of consensus and you can go down sort of the middle. And then people kind of want to be beholden to that time that they voted on as well.
Yeah, that's a really great suggestion.
Thank you.
I love that idea, or Simon, what you said there at the end of people feel beholden to the time because they voted on it. I just think that's such a cool hack for that piece. Jill, I have so many new ideas from your momentary expertise. So thank you so much for sharing. Simon, you had raised your hand earlier. I'm going to unspotlight you here. Jill. Thanks for jumping in and being willing to be our first expert in the room.
You're welcome.
Simon, you had raised your hand earlier. Did you have a different theme that you feel like you had cracked, or was it the same one?
There's a few that I think we've cracked. Definitely time is one of them. Another one is getting people excited before we get into the main bulk of it. So getting people energized prior to kicking off. That's something that we think we've done really well with. So we have like a selection of about 5 different activities that we get people to do before we jump into the nitty gritty of the meeting, which is often really helpful to get people sort of ready to speak, ready to share, ready to move as well.
Cool. Are you up for talking more about that, Simon, and being in the hot seat? Great.
I'll do a quick example. One of the activities that we do is called Peekaboo. So basically, what we do is we ask everyone to cover their webcams with their thumbs. So if everyone wants to do that, so cover your webcam with your thumb. Is this okay for me to do, Meg? I don't want to.
Absolutely. We're all facilitators. We live for these moments.
So I'm going to go through some categories, and if you agree with me, or if you have done something that I list, take your thumb off the webcam, and then we can sort of see similarities. So, if you like pineapple on pizza, take your thumb off the webcam. Quite a lot of people. It's usually a 50-50 split. Okay, one for me because I'm curious. If you've been to the UK, take your thumb off the webcam. Bunch of explorers. I think that, you know what, it's quite telling with facilitators. They tend to be quite adventurous and explorative, actually, what I've found, which is really nice. And final one, then maybe I'll pass back over to you, Meg. You can throw in one. Let's see. I enjoy watching football, aka soccer. Much fewer. So, Meg, if you want to think of a category, not to put you on the spot, but then we can, then people can ask questions if they want about some of the facilitation and stuff that we do.
Oh, but to totally put me on the spot. Okay, thumb over. Okay, who can see themselves using this activity in your next workshop? Okay,
I didn't hear that question. I'm sorry.
It was a very meta question of just like, who can see using Peekaboo in your next workshop? And it was, spoiler alert, most of us.
Definitely.
I'll take that as a win.
Awesome. Thank you, Simon. That was awesome. I took you off the spotlight just because I wanted the recording to be able to capture the full effect of the Peekaboo. So cool. So what other questions do folks have for Simon?
Do you have any other fun, engaging activities to kind of warm up? That was a really great warm up, and it created a lot of smiles.
Thanks, Kat. Yeah, we've got a whole list, which I don't have on the top of my head, but I'm always happy to give away activities and stuff.
Can I LinkedIn message you or something?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can. If anyone, am I allowed to do a shout out, Meg? I don't want to hijack the.
No.
Oh no.
Totally. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If anyone wants to get in touch, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You'll find me under Lord Simon Jacobs on LinkedIn, or just email me, which is simon@professionalweirdos.co.uk. Always happy to share things.
Cool. Simon, I'm wondering how you use those warm-ups, like how they affect the breakout rooms.
They massively affect the attitudes that people have. So typically what we do, there are two big things that we do with professional weirdos. One is a networking thing called Onion Hour. I'm desperately not trying to advertise these things, but one thing is a networking thing, and sometimes we get a crowd that isn't as active as we'd like. And what we've seen when we've done these what we've seen when we've done these activities is it warms the crowd up really well. So they're energized before they go into a conversation. And it's the same with anything. If you go into a physical room that energizes you, you're going to be willing to have that conversation. And that's the same with virtual stuff. And then also the stuff that we do with Professional Weirdos is for corporates. and corporates can be so incredibly dry. There's always that one person that sits there with their arms folded, leaned back, not really listening. The activity that we do, like the Peekaboo one, it forces them to reach forward and actually do something, so they're not leaning back and not disengaging. And two, some of the other activities we do force them to stand up and go run around, so they're actually got their heart pumping and gets them moving, which is really valuable because when people are smiling, they're happy to engage typically.
Awesome. Maybe one more question for Simon, if anyone has one.
Can I just ask, Jill, what does it say on your hat? Does it say Rebels?
It says Knobles.
Knobles.
It's a local amusement park that doesn't cost anything for parking, doesn't cost anything for admission. So you can not like amusement parks and still hang out with your people.
Brilliant. Sorry, I just really wanted to know. I couldn't see it before.
So funny because for me it reads, I'm originally from the Netherlands and it reads as a Dutch word, knoebels, which would be like a sort of a lump.
So, hey, I do have a question for Simon, I guess. One of the things I battle with a lot with engagement in Zoom rooms is like a lot of the type of activities that you're sharing with us now are activities that I think maybe a lot of us are familiar with. I will then use that information to create an activity or something that kind of, I would say, engineers what the rooms look like, right? I'm interacting with the people, I'm reading the room, I'm reading the personalities, and I'm saying, okay, great. If I put these 6 people together, they probably will get along well together, there will be conversation, etc. accordingly. That is very challenging, of course, in a environment where you can't read people's body languages as easily or see, like I put a lot on how close people are standing to each other. Like, are they near the door? Are they looking out the window? Are they near the bathroom, right? Are they clustered up? Are they spread out? Do you have some tactics or some activities that you've used to address that?
I mean, the first answer is no. There isn't an incident where I can think of where we've tried to gauge which people would work best with each other. I think what tends to happen is, from my experience, is about 3 breakout rooms in, you get the vibe of certain people. So typically after the 3rd breakout room, you see who's sharing the most. You see who's commenting, who's chatting the most, and at that point, that's when we get better at matching people through the breakout rooms. Very, very early on into the Zoom, it's difficult to pair. We've sort of found, and we try not to put too much stress on ourselves when it comes to that sort of thing. I'm also looking for advice on that as well. If you can make better pairings in Zoom breakout rooms, then yeah, come at me. But no, I've not got a one size fits all answer to that. Sorry, Rowan.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, it's a huge struggle.
Yeah.
Rohan, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Oh,
so,
I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna jump in just because I feel like we're about to open up a whole new doorway, and I want to walk into that doorway, but I'm actually gonna hold us, if we can, to like putting a pin in that question and putting a pin in that conversation, because it would be a perfect thing to dive into in that second 60 minutes. So that we can go deep. And I know there's a couple folks who won't be able to join us for those second 60. And I want to make sure we have a chance to kind of debrief this experience and start to wrap up this initial 60. And then we can go even deeper into that question. And hopefully Jed and Rohan, you're able to stick around, or we can get into that conversation offline. So I'm gonna pause us there and move us into starting to debrief this initial experience that we had, which Sam is gonna help me out with. Sam, you there?
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. I was just wanting to move us in the direction of starting to debrief this initial section.
Okay, cool. So Rohan, actually what you were saying, you were talking about the in-person experience and how, like, when you're in person, you can kind of see where people are standing in the room and you're reading people's energy or how they're relating to one another, and you're using that to make your breakout rooms. The first question I wanted to ask you all, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot lately when we were planning this and we're thinking about breakout rooms in Zoom, is if anybody has any thoughts on breakout rooms in Zoom being completely different than breakout rooms in real life or in-person facilitation. Does anybody see these as completely categorically different when you're using breakout rooms in Zoom compared to the ways that you would do them, like small groups or breakout rooms in an in-person workshop? Is it just apples and oranges, or are we talking about two different types of apples?
One challenge that I've had is that it's just like I can't see what's going on. And so if when I'm in person, you can walk around and see where there's energy, where there's laughter, where there's like they're checked out. And so I'm wondering like, do people pop into breakout rooms? Sometimes I just want to leave them alone. Sometimes it's too many rooms. And so that's the main challenge that I'm having. Good question, Sam. Is sort of like, how do I know what's going on?
Yeah.
Other than like they're all smiling when they come back.
Okay, Katie. Yeah, so that's good. Anything else like that? So not to dig into Katie's share there, but like any other shares like that? Are there things that you're like, I just really see this as completely different, and that's been stumping me in a way that in an in-person workshop, I don't struggle with breaking people out or doing pairs or small groups, but in Zoom, I've just been stuck, or I see it as categorically different. Any other thoughts or reflections like that, like what Katie just shared?
So
I have, sorry.
So I'm not stuck, but what it's very different for me, I work with schools. And so when we are in person and we have breakouts, they're very intentionally grouped, usually in advance. And with Zoom, it's much more throw it in the air, mix it up. It's going to be who it's going to be. And there's really not the order that there would be if we were in person.
Gotcha, Heather. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Anything else that's completely different from those two? From like the how do you pop in on people, or how do you check on how the breakout rooms are going, or the selection process feeling like pretty random, whereas in person you could have done it more intentionally, or you feel that way? Anything different? Anything else? Jennifer, I see you raising your hand.
Couple of thoughts. I don't
Go
know
ahead,
who.
Kristen. Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
no, go ahead. Yep.
So on both ends, so breaking people out for one. One thing, Heather, you can set it up in advance. You can actually, if you know who's.
Instead of responding back
yeah,
to.
sorry, right. You said that.
Yep, no worries. Yep.
So, so one thing is that if you don't do that, if you don't set it up in advance, it can take a little time. So then they're sitting there watching you, as opposed to like, let's just count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, give them cards or do some other kind of thing to break them up. So there's that can be faster, I think, in person. And then the other thing is on the tail end when they come back. I now when I send them off, I say choose someone in your group that's going to report back, so that when they come back, there's not this like, who's going to talk? I don't know. I can't see your body language. Are you? Oh, I'm just going to sit here quietly, and then no one talks. So those are the two that pop out for me.
Nice, thank you, Kristen. Jennifer, did you have something completely different?
I did. For me, I don't know. This is typical of facilitators. I'm feeling a little facilitator guilt. That's different, that I didn't seem to really have when it was in person, where if we're doing breakout rooms, listen, I have you in my kind of space, I have you for however long, that's part of the agenda for my day with you. But with online or virtual, I kind of feel like participants have a little bit more control, whether that's muting or video. And I feel like now that I'm asking you to do a group, I'm kind of taking away that virtual control that you have. I don't know, just a little facilitator guilt that I feel like I'm having more that I didn't have in person.
I thought you were going in a very different down a very different road at the beginning there. I thought you were going to say you're feeling guilty because when people are in breakout rooms, you're just kind of like in your house, not actually facilitating, which I feel that way all the time. I'm like, wow, I basically can just like play with my dog for 14 minutes while these people all do their thing.
Love.
Finally take that bathroom break.
Agency, or the participant's ability to like have agency or choose their level of participation. You feel like when you put them in a small group, they kind of have to participate in ways that you don't have like the ability to be kind of be a intermediary or checking in on that. Is that?
Yeah. And I was saying earlier, like, okay. I'm an introverted trainer. I'm an introverted facilitator. So I'm always kind of thinking on the part of that person. And in person, I can help alleviate a little bit of that stress. But I feel like, virtual, I'm putting a lot of people in positions that they're not comfortable in person, but now even more so, maybe even less comfortable. So there's a little bit of that guilt just for the personality. So
that's kind of like what Beth was talking about earlier, right? If I'm remembering, it was Beth. Okay, so great, Jennifer. All right, so y'all, these are wonderful. These are all great little, very different shares.
Sorry, I got one more.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. Kat?
Yeah. So
Yeah, please.
I was thinking about these. I haven't hosted any work facilitation per se, but hosting a birthday party or hosting any kind of online event. Like I'm starting a company that's going to do virtual painting classes. So this is going to help me, start with games and get the fun going in a virtual room. But when you're in person, you can break off, you know, anytime you want and speak to people that you want to. Are we able to make our own breakout rooms? Or do you have to be the person facilitating to make these breakout rooms? And how can we solve that?
Okay, that's a perfect, and that's actually, it's like the plant question that gets to the next part. I'm curious if there's any people who would like to share from what we did at the beginning, where Meg was putting us in those different rooms, to where we were in Mural using sticky notes and doing the groupings, to then when we had our couple of experts sharing, Jill and Simon, who are in the spotlight, helping us see how they've like worked through these challenges themselves. Are there any like connections people are making between in-person rooms and the ways that you've done breakout rooms before, and maybe seeing new ideas for how you might be able to create an analogous experience in Zoom that you before weren't doing, but maybe after this 49 minutes that we've spent together so far, or some more time that we might be able to spend with one another, any ways that you can create those analogous experiences? And Kat, does anyone have an answer for Kat's question on how to let people electively enter their own rooms or their own spaces? Kristen, I see your hand up. And Maria. Let's go Kristen and Maria.
We were talking in one of our breakouts, and an idea arose about, I don't know if people are familiar with open space facilitation, but one of my partners said, oh, you don't have to name them room 1, room 2, room 3. You could name them apples. You could name them whatever. And so I started thinking about, the olden days of open space. Haven't done it for a long time, but just thinking if you had a bunch of different questions that you wanted people to brainstorm on or whatever, you could, with this new ability to jump into whatever room you want, you could give people choice about, oh, do I want to talk about, what do I want to brainstorm around how to do X, or do I want to, brainstorm about how to do Y, or, oh, I'm not enjoying X, now I can pop into Y or whatever. It doesn't really answer your question, Kat, in terms of, can I just right now throw myself into a breakout room with you? I don't think we have that technology, but once they're open, there could be
there
opportunity
could
for
be a
moving
meeting
around.
place where you can maybe chat with somebody and say, hey, I'm going to join the apples room right now, join me. Maybe that can be a way, because that's a good idea.
Brenna, it looks like you're trying to answer the tech part of this question. Are you?
No,
or a
I'm
new
trying.
question?
I'm actually asking a question because Meg had put up the list of all of the rooms with the join links. Is that an option that's available to us on?
Yeah,
I don't know that I ever have a room big enough to be able to play with that, to see if that pops up for people, and then you have basically like a Slack instance, right, where you've got a bunch of different channels and people can pop back and forth and have conversations. That's okay.
So just to answer the initial question with some more information, what you just brought up, when you create the breakout rooms, there's a little checkbox that says allow participants to choose their own breakout rooms.
Thank you.
So that kind of wraps this whole conversation up.
Thank you.
Yep, right, exactly. Yep. And Meg, do you want to speak to that a little bit more with how you did it specifically this morning? I wasn't this morning, a few minutes ago.
Yeah. So you can set it, you could create 10 breakout rooms and have no one assigned to any of them, and then open them and they could move in individually. So you could do, Kat, what you were talking about of like, I'm just going to open 10 rooms, and if you want to at some point be like, hey, come into room 1 with me, like they could just do that. You have to make sure they're unassigned to start with, right? And the way that we did it, where you went into a room and then I brought you back and then I gave you the ability to switch. Now, if I open those rooms, you'll all go off to those rooms still, right? And you have to come back to the main room. So that's why I say it's important to have people unassigned if you want that freedom of choice. But you can do exactly what you were talking about, Kat. If you just created the rooms and then gave them that option of like, anytime you want, just hop into a specific room and just, direct message somebody, be like, I want to leave this convo, Yeah.
There's also participants also have the leave room button at any time
Yep.
too. So even if they were assigned ahead of time, like if you were in the middle of a session and you said, okay, you're going to go back into the original rooms that you were in, but I want you to jump out manually. If you have people that are technologically adept enough to do that quickly, that is another option.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maria, that's a good point. It helps get back to that question of like agency, or Jennifer, you're wanting to protect the more introverted participants, letting them know beforehand if you need to pop back into the big room, if you want to mute your mic and mute your camera, giving people permissions beforehand. Obviously, they're at their computer, they know they can like Alt F4, they can close their window, they can leave the Zoom, but they might not feel socially comfortable doing those things. Where in an in-person training, they might feel comfortable leaving a small group or going to the restroom. Giving people permissions to do those things so that they can opt in and opt out in little micro ways throughout the meeting might be helpful. I'm wondering if there's any other, like one last thought on this connection between in-person facilitation, the way you might use breakout rooms, and a new way you're seeing how you might be able to use Zoom breakout rooms to achieve the same goal, like a goal that you maybe didn't see as possible, or that you're seeing in a new way now in Zoom. Are there any thoughts?
Yeah, so because of a lot of the things that we've all listed as obstacles, I started viewing these rooms totally different than moving people into the small groups or moving into things. And there's a lot of facilitation activities that I've done where the intent is you have groups set up working on different projects that are then interacting with each other, and they are supposed to be in total vacuums. So as a facilitator, suddenly like that was real. Like there was total fidelity to that. And so what I've done a few times is I've set alternate methods of communication where they're not actually communicating with the other groups through Zoom. They're using phones, they're using email, they're using Slack, whatever. And so as a facilitator, it actually made it, it was kind of, I had a lot of the feels that were described, right? Like sometimes I felt bad or I felt lazy because I couldn't check in as much with the groups, or I had to leave them alone. And so, there was definitely a lot more, depending on your philosophy, experiential learning with less guidance. And at the same time, then a lot of the thing happened that I kind of worry about, which is it was a lot of the time it was like there's like two people who do the group project and everybody else checks out, or because they are all at home, like people are off doing something completely different as soon as possible, and I don't have the ability to float around and do that. So I mean, it's one of the things that I'm still trying to resolve, right? Is I want to use these rooms like I would be facilitating in person. And for me, the easiest way to use the rooms has been to not do that and to really just think, okay, no, we are not in person. Stop trying to make it that way. And that balance has been hard to strike.
Yeah, it makes sense, Rohan. And that gets back to Katie, your question. And just to give you a concrete answer, you can totally pop into people's rooms in Zoom. It's something I do quite a bit. It's something that we've done here in the Braid Jam. People do, sometimes as facilitators, you pop around, pop in, see how people are doing. And Rohan, to get back to your point, I think that we think of that as so different because it's Zoom. But ultimately, when you're going around and popping in on a breakout room in real life, like in a small group, you're breaking up the conversation, you're pulling the focus to you, you're interrupting people, you're doing all the things that happen in Zoom. It's not that different. It doesn't have to feel that different. And a lot of things that we're worried about in Zoom of like people aren't focusing on their task, or people are completely distracted, or they're tuning out, or they don't know the instructions. All that stuff happens in in-person breakouts quite a bit as well. So I think that the challenges for an in-person breakout room or an in-person small group experience or a pair experience and a Zoom one, they're quite similar. Like if you look at this mural board, you're going to see a lot of similarities to stuff that happens in person. I mean, less with cameras, but other than the camera stuff, we have a lot of the similar challenges. So focusing, like using all of your facilitator experience from in-person facilitation and applying that intentionally and methodically or thoughtfully to your Zooms is something that I hope we can talk about in the second 60.
And I think one thing I'll just share to right before we close out is that I experience the anxiety differently. And so I think it's different anxiety. Like I was like, oh, but I'm interrupting people. And it's like, yeah, you just spent the last 10 years getting used to that feeling in person, right? Like you've just spent so much time adjusting to that feeling normal. And you just haven't spent as long doing that in Zoom. And so that was something that I was reflecting on as we shared is like, actually, I've just worked through that awkwardness in person and I haven't in Zoom, right? And so I need to stop thinking of it as a unique challenge and more just like an unfamiliar same challenge. Or that's where I was starting to reflect on. Okay, I want to do just a really short wrap up, especially for the folks who are heading out at the hour mark, if you're not sticking around for the second 60. What I would love to do is to hear from those folks in the chat, which will be the quickest way to do it. In the chat, if you would be up for sharing one thing you're thinking and one thing that you're feeling as you walk away from the Brain Jam today about breakout rooms. What is one thing you're thinking and one thing you're feeling? And especially the folks who are heading out, I'd love to leave on some of your thoughts. And if you would like to say it out loud, we have time for 1 or 2 people to do that. I'll read them out otherwise as they come in. So we've got,
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah, we've got thinking, more flexibility exists than I'm using, and I'm feeling like I need to be more brave. Awesome. And Anne's got, I'm thinking that I'm plotting my next moves and that I've taken a lot of notes. And Simon, you shared that I'm thinking about breakout rooms completely differently. And I will say, for one, you also helped me think about breakout rooms completely differently. So super appreciate that. Okay, I'm excited to play with parts of Zoom in ways I've never imagined. That's awesome. Well, thank you all for playing with parts of Zoom that many of us probably haven't gotten to play with before. This was such an incredible conversation. And for folks who are able to and want to, please do stick around for the second half, where we're going to start doing more experimenting and where we can have deeper dives into these conversations. If you aren't able to stick around, thank you so much for joining us for this first half of our I keep messing up breakout rooms and brain jams. For our brain jam, it was so great to connect with you, and feel free to unmute and give us a wave as you sign off and head back into the rest of your day. If you are
Nice to
signing
meet
off.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.